Hello everyone, this is Jared Pixley for Pixley for President. Welcome to another of my weekly videos. In one of my previous videos, the social duties of the president, a couple of the social events that I forgot or neglected to mention include the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where the president goes in front of hundreds of journalists, and frequently there's comedians that make fun of him. I have rather thick skin, at least I like to think I do, and I've had people make fun of me enough in my life that it doesn't bother me as much. There's also the St. Patrick's Day luncheon, where on St. Patrick's Day the president has a luncheon with various Irish American leaders. Um, yeah, so lots of stuff, for the president to make appearances at. So, with the Iran war entering its third month and gas prices at a record high, I think it's time for us to talk about energy independence. In the last couple months, we've seen gas prices soar about $1.25 a gallon. At least it's about $1.50 a gallon here, from what it was. Yeah, and it doesn't look like the war is going to end anytime soon. Uh, Iran is giving their demands, and the administration just doesn't care. Um, just yesterday, day before, they started shooting again. So we can expect to see gas prices climb even higher. Now, this shows us how dependent we are on foreign sources of energy and how easily those supply lines can be disrupted. Now, crude oil is not the only thing we're dependent on. And I will come back to crude oil later, but I want to talk about electricity first. Last year, when Trump started his trade war with the rest of the world, Canada raised the rates on electricity that they send across the border to us. In the US, we do not make enough electricity for all of our country. Pretty close. We supply about 96%, 97% of our electricity needs. But we do buy some electricity from Canada. Um, South Korea has just passed a law that any parking lot with more than 80 spaces must build a solar panel canopy. They estimate that this is the equivalent to building 10 nuclear power plants in their country. Similar laws have been proposed in the US, but very little has gone into effect. In Arizona, a company did do this to 12 parking lots and is now generating 1.23 million kilowatt hours of clean energy a year. New York City has been working to add solar panels over parking lots and attaching electric vehicle recharging stations to them to provide free recharges. Imagine if we rolled this out nationwide. Walmarts could have solar canopies offsetting their energy demands, cutting their electric bills, and they could install free recharging stations for electric vehicles. With the surge of energy, rates would have to go down. Supply and demand. Now, this is something that I would work on in the US. I would work with business owners to do this voluntarily, perhaps work with the Department of Energy to create some grant programs, and I would talk to members of Congress about creating a law. I'm sure Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would be on board. Now, in the past, I have mentioned a company called Suncia, which has built a wind and solar farm in Arizona and is sending the power, or not Arizona, sorry, in New Mexico, and is sending the power to Southern California and Arizona. The company was started with a grant from Biden's Department of Energy, and now they have turned that into a growing electric company. So we know that the Green Energy Grant Program works. Now, Germany has also embraced green energy. In 2005, over 60% of their power was generated by fossil fuels, and about 30 odd percent was from nuclear, and only about 1% was from solar. In 2025, 20 years later, is 60% is from solar, 35 is from fossil fuels, and almost nothing is from nuclear. Now, the U.S. could follow their example and replace our coal and gas plants with solar farms, including the parking lot canopies. This would cut down on pollution. Now, let's turn our attention to electric vehicles. The CEO of Ford Motor Company has been to China a few times in the last year and is pushing to prevent China from shipping cars to the United States. In an interview, he explained that their electric vehicles were better than American EVs. They got about 100 more miles per charge, recharged faster, and had better electronic systems in their cars that actually worked. He mentioned facial recognition and your telephone automatically syncing to your car. Now, personally, I don't need any of that fancy stuff. I just want a car that turns on when I turn the key and can get me from point A to point B. A working radio is a nice plus. But Ford is worried that we are too far behind in the electric vehicle market and wants to prevent the competition from coming over. Now, China has sold about 13 million electric cars in 2025. The growth of China's electric vehicle market has also cut down on their air pollution. Some cities that used to be covered in smog now have clean air. While China has more electronic vehicles than most countries, Norway has really embraced going green. In 2025, over 95% of their new car sales were for electronic vehicles. And so far in 2026, it's almost 98%. Gas vehicles are just going out of style. They are working towards getting to zero emissions. The United States is far behind. The most recent numbers I could find were 2023. And in that year, 20% of our new car sales were electric. And most of that is just in California. If we were to use the technology from other countries, we can lower the price of electric cars. Various companies, such as Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz, are making progress on producing batteries that are cheaper, that hold a larger charge, and recharge faster. And right now we've been working with lithium ion. There's stuff about nickel and zinc. China is now experimenting with sodium ion, which is far cheaper than lithium. Companies around the world are working on it. And every month or two, I see a news article, new breakthrough. That'll revolutionize the game. So if we could take their discoveries, take the technology that they've developed, and incorporate it, this would make electronic vehicles better, would make them less expensive, and it would make our country less dependent on foreign oil. Imagine driving by the pump in your electric vehicle and seeing that gas just went up another 25 cents last night, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And thanks to the solar canopies at the local grocery stores, you can pull in there, plug in, do your shopping, and have a full charge when you get out. Now, with all of this, we will not be totally free from the need for crude oil. It goes into a lot more than just gasoline. A byproduct of oil goes into fertilizer, which our farmers need, and they've been worried about planting this year because of the lack of the oil. Larger vehicles like planes and semis still need, to be fuel powered. But if we can replace a lot of the cars with electric cars, we can reduce our need for crude oil. And maybe the oil that we produce in the U.S. will be enough to cover all of our needs. Now, along with all of this, another problem is that most people just don't even know any of this is happening. They have no clue what's happening in other countries. And if they knew how the oil companies in the United States were working to keep us dependent on foreign crude, I want to believe that they would vote out any congressman taking gifts from the oil lobbyists. So, along with bringing back these green energy grants, we also need to educate our people, to teach them how to read the news, to research this material, or research in general. But I said, if elected president, I'd work to make the U.S. energy independent. I would promote the research and the development of better electronic vehicles. I would fight for solar energy, for cheaper energy prices. I would bring back Biden's grant programs for green energy to help us, improve our power grid, to create clean, renewable plants, so that we could take our place with the rest of the world instead of falling behind while everyone else laughs at us. So, thank you for watching this week's video. Please like, share, subscribe. All of that does mean a lot to me. If you have any comments or anything else that you think I could do to help the United States be energy independent, put it in the comments below. In the description, you can find all my social medias. You can follow me there. Thank you once again, and see you again next week.